Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really been an amazing last several days at the GSD. A full spectrum of lectures and events, from pedagogical debates concerning the architectural thesis project, with several of GSD's distinguished alumni, to the inspiring work of Teresita Fernandez, to conversations on the legacy of Manfredo Teferi. It's been very packed. Tonight, to add to this richness, I'm very delighted to introduce Silvia Gmür, whose firm has produced the beautiful exhibit in the library, which runs till March 23rd. The exactitude of these models is really quite exquisite, and I encourage you to join us for a reception in the library this evening, co-sponsored by Swiss Snacks, directly following this lecture. Silvia Gmür was born in Zurich in 1939 and studied architecture at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich between 1959 and 1963. She worked in Zurich, Paris, and London, then in New York from 1966 to 1970 at Mitchell-Giurgola. She opened her own office in 1972 in Basel. Between 1995 and 2001, she collaborated with the architect Livio Vacchini in Basel and Locarno. Her activities in professional organizations are numerous, including memberships in the Committee of Urban Development of Basel, participation in the Federal Commission of Historical Monuments, and the Commission of Experts for the University of Basel. She also served as the president of the Federation of Swiss Architects from 2002 to 2005. We're also delighted to have with us this evening Reto Gmür, her son, who was educated at the EPF Lausanne and joined her practice in 2002 after working for Dominique Perrault. Silvia and Reto have been in partnership together since 2005, and I know for myself, I should only wish to have such a relationship with my son in the future. The firm's awards are numerous, including the Swiss Heimatschutz Prize in 1995 and the Merit Oppenheim Prize honoring established architects, artists, and curators in 2011. Works by Silvia Gmür have been published in various books and have been the subject of articles in Casabella, Arbitrare, among others. In referencing the work displayed in the exhibition, Silvia has cited Le Corbusier's letter to the director of the Venice Hospital, in which he states that a hospital is a house for man. Historians and theorists have long speculated on the potential of Corbusier's unbuilt work of the hospital that permeates the space of the patient above all else, physically and metaphysically, suggesting that it represents a possible bridge between the dogma of his Siam and the very rejection of those same principles developed by Team 10. The project's iconic matte building form, and particularly the section, describes the most specific and the most flexible aspects of the hospital, a proposal amidst the low-rise context of Venice in which the GSD's own Hashim Sarkis has described its logic reflected back on the city. Corbusier's own partner, Julian de la Fuente, has said that the Venice Hospital can be seen as a kind of témoin, or testimonial, in which Corbu introduces all of his principles and theories, including his aspirations for the integration of technology and architecture around the mission of healing. As many of you would agree, the typology of contemporary hospitals and healthcare institutions remains elusive to architects as they struggle against the dominant nature of program and the incessant demands of technology circulation and service orientation. And yet the building type is so rich with the primal conditions of human need, sickness, joy, caring, and vulnerability, demands that pronounce the very essence of our humanity. In the context of the North American milieu, Gmür's work offers a recuperative model for space, the pun is intended there, and an emphasis on the individual, which offers a kind of antidote to the typological challenges that typify the institutional, urban, and economic compromises of the healthcare project. I'm sure you will see that Silvia's work demonstrates an amazing oscillation between the idea of space, which is both artfully self-contained and also deeply connected to sight, which rejects the abdication of architecture for the sake of medical technology, and by which tectonic clarity yields a luminosity that reveals the inextricable link between structure and space. These are the qualities of the Gmür work in a diverse range of efforts from hospitals to houses, which we have been eagerly anticipating hearing about this evening. So please join me in warmly welcoming Silvia Gmür.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you very much.
And here's a
Yes, I've got one too. Thank you, Grace, very much for your kind introduction and the introduction to the theme. Hospital architecture is not a very popular topic. One reason for this, I think, is that people do not like to be reminded of illness, pain, and death. Another is that hospital architecture rarely embraces the quality, the criteria of quality required of important public buildings and their urban integration. Furthermore, in many countries they are not accessible and therefore withdraw themselves to comparison and judgment. While the hospital should make the patient feel respected as an individual and respond to his personal needs, hospital architecture is generally an expression of the power of healthcare industry with the patient at its mercy. The current trend to integrate shopping centers into hospital structures reinforces the status of the patient as a consumer and misunderstands the concept of urban integration. The reason why we are involved in hospital planning are social commitment, the need and challenge to find new typologies capable of meeting the requirements of both the individual and the institution, the fact, at least in Europe, that hospital design is, for many decades, been dominated by technocratic thinking to the neglect of human and urban aspects. I think this has to be changed. When I started working on hospital architecture, I was fascinated by the range of problems, and now, 30 years later, I'm still searching for the ideal hospital. Since 2003, my son Reto has joined me in my studio. As office partners, we share the same philosophy and goals and engage in a creative dialogue over all our projects. No project leaves our office unless we both are convinced that we can't do better at this very moment. That said, we don't see ourselves as specialists in any particular field, but as architects. It's just a case that I speak mainly about hospitals tonight. I could also speak about another issue. The purpose of my lecture is not to teach you how to build good hospitals, but to convince you to do whatever you do as an architect with intensity, curiosity, and the urge to understand what you are doing and why. Livio Vacchini said, "Architecture is about the construction of thoughts. To realize a project is to abandon yourself to the pleasure of constructing thoughts. If you discover and live this conviction, you will be a very happy architect." For all your life, you are going to have a dialogue with yourself, asking questions in order to make decisions. So make sure that your horizon is wide and open. The quality of the questions is more important than the answer, and education is not an accumulation but the horizon. It is more important to understand than to know. The circumstances of your life will lead you to do certain things rather than others. For an architect, it is of little importance whether he builds a hut or a palace, a room or a hospital, a town square or a city, as long as he knows what he is doing and gets to the essence of what he is doing. As architects, you participate in a ritual that runs like a thread through the masterpieces of history. You have to find answers to the same questions than we were faced by Imhotep, the builders of Stonehenge, Phidias, Sinan, Michelangelo, Le Corbusier, Mies, and Kahn. This is your challenge and must be your horizon. The history of architecture can be seen as a series of projects that grows with every new building. The specific time in which the project is created configures its limits. This is why over time, new discoveries can be made and new masterpieces can appear. I will enhance 3 architectural themes that are of great importance for our philosophy and our work. The typology as the expression of structural and formal order, the unity, which is the goal we search in every project, the light is the maker of space, you know who said that. It has the capacity of transformation. It is the most mysterious component of architecture, the least predictable and always surprising. You might expect that I will speak about functionality and efficiency concerning hospital planning. I think that these topics are results and not starting points. Form is much more durable than function. Developing the appropriate typology and structure will guarantee the flexibility and efficiency of function. Furthermore, the notion of function is much too limiting and should be replaced by the notion of activity, which relates man to action. It signifies that people are doing certain activities for other people in specific spaces, and they need specific conditions to do their work well. Thinking about it in this way leads you to design spaces and not to add functions. Since I will speak about the hospital as a house for man, I ask first, what is a house for man? Louis Kahn says the room is the beginning of architecture. So how is this room made? The first man who built the room recognized himself as an individual, separated from nature. He defined an individual space by building a tent or a hut in the middle of the wilderness for his shelter. The room came into being because of the physical and psychological protection it offered. So it became the place of the mind. When I build a house for myself, it is for comfort, but even more for my mind and my dreams. I will show you 2 houses, one built about 20 years ago with Livio Vacchini, the other a few years ago. You could call them both minimal houses, but this was not the goal, the issue. The aim was to search for the essence, the indispensable parts of a room. These are, in my opinion, the unity and the light. The unity defines the structure, the form, the architectural order, the material, and the serving elements of the room. The way you let enter the light in your room defines its expression, its atmosphere, and it is closely related to the form of the room. My room or house must be empty and silent, so I can occupy it with my spirituality. I search the void as a construction. The first house is a house at the Aegean Sea. This is the landscape. This landscape is immense. It goes from south to north. It's just this horizon and the sky above, the sea below, nothing else, a few rocks, a few islands. The house reflects this situation. At left, you see the plan. The plan reflects the idea of the house. If you go in a site like this, you're not going to build a house, but you're going to build a place for contemplation. It's a place to look at the sky, at the sea, at the horizon. So we built a 100-meter-long terrace all the way and cut it into the rock in the back. Hopsla. I'll have another one. Yeah. So if you enter the house, you have a wall that you go through. You have a garden like an oriental carpet, which has oleander trees and bougainvilleas that are flowering pink. Then you go along this terrace, which is marked by these three walls. One is the wall to the mountain. One is the middle wall which is not a wall, but it's a sign of the wall in a form of a marble stripe, where also the columns of the two rooms are situated. And the front one that marks the walls of the rooms is a slightly inclined surface, so the light would shine differently on that part than on the terrace, and you feel the end of the terrace. You have the first room, which is a simple room by 10 by 10 meters for a living room and the kitchen. Then you have a porticos and a palm tree courtyard. Then you have another room with 2 bedrooms and another terrace that goes to another flowered garden before it goes to the landscape. You see here the entrance with the wall on the right-hand side and the stripe in the middle. Same in the other direction. The porticos, where you see this line of light along the terrace. In daytime it's white, then it gets yellow, and in the evening it gets red. Geometry of the Greek light. The living room and the column in the living room, and the marble stripe on which it is put. This is the porticos with what we call our television, because we don't have a television. This here is our television, sorry. This here is our television. And here you look to the porticos and the wall in the living room, and you see it's a closed wall. It has just a small slit for a window. But look what the light is doing to it, what jokes. You see a continuous sea line inside. And this is another rite, or ritus. In the evening, we always celebrate the sun going down and the colors on the sky and on the sea and on the house. And we are having a couple of sundowners and good talks, listen to music. Here you see Livio Vacchini, Luigi Snozzi, and Roberto Masiero having a good conversation. It is not, this house didn't want to integrate into nature. That was not the aim. The aim was to give nature a frame, a built frame in order to enjoy even more the beauty of the nature. On the other hand, nature makes the house to its mirror. So day and night you have this game of play of lights, and you actually don't need a watch. You always know what time it is if you look at the colors you have. This house is, of course, all white because the light likes to reflect on a white surface. The next house is all gray because it's built of concrete, and it couldn't be built in any other material. It's really a house that is made to be built in concrete, you will see. It is above Locarno, on the hills of Locarno, and the theme here was, like in the other house, the duality created by, that creates a unity. In this house, you see in the section, it's a house made of 2 parts. Each part is made of 2 spaces, a cold one and a warm one. And the whole house is made of 2 columns, one like that and the other one like that, further back in the diagonal. You see it here or here. And the column gets big on one floor and small on the other. And where it's big, it has the bathroom inside. So it's this duality between open room, closed room. There is one facade, one glass facade, just the same going all around, and one kind of light going around the house of a dimension of 12 by 24 meters. One thing, sorry, which is important. This house is created as a unity, so it has one architectural order. And I find this a difficult thing if you build a house on a hill and you push it into the hill. You have the problem of having on one side 1 floor, on the other side you have 2 floors, and you have a mess of the order, which you cannot resolve. So I decided to move the house away from the hill, to build a wall, to have a water basin on top, and the water falls down and goes into the next basin, so that this wall with the water and the reflections of this reflecting pool is the facade, the back facade of the lower house. This is important. This was a big issue of discussion always between Livio and me. See the house with the 2 columns. You see the house is set off by the wall. So this is the wall, this is the reflecting pool, the house. So you have to get over in a kind of a bridge, in a kind of a box, which is completely closed to all sides. You see only the sky when you are in here. But when you are at the point where you can enter the house, you see through the whole house. You have this change of vertical and horizontal opening. This is the access under a pergola of Japanese wisteria, which are beautiful. In the back there is a whole henge, or I don't know, of jasmine. So when you get into the house, you have the impression you're in an oriental garden, 1001 nights, because the perfumes of the flowers is so strong. You get the water, you get water lilies, and you have the house. This is the house from the bottom. You see the duality, and you see the column. One column, the other one is inside, and outside upstairs then. The porticos on the upper floor with the bench. All concrete. I think I don't have to say that. One can see it. The view to the porticos and the column and the garden. And the room. It's one room. I didn't divide it with anything. The bathroom is in the column, as I said. The kitchen is a concrete bench along here. You don't see it here. That's the only built-in furniture that there is. And if you leave everything open, you don't close anything, you feel like really unified to the universe. You're outside and you see that the facades are not these glass panels, which you can open completely, but it's really the mountains, it's the Alps, the Swiss, Italian, and French Alps that are determining or creating your facade, and the lake. But if you need intimacy. You just close the curtains and you leave open whatever piece of nature you want, or you close the whole thing, and you feel very cozy inside. The two columns, outside, inside. And the house by night, you can see. The result is indeed a quiet room with boundaries determined by the vegetation and the landscape. Being radical in its elements, it diffuses an extremely poetic atmosphere. It leaves space for your imagination because of its abstraction. Abstraction is the inner synthesis of form. What do these houses teach us for our hospitals? The patient room must be his shelter, the space where he feels protected, intimate. It is a small room, but each activity should find its place, a zone for the bed, a place for the table, a space for the chair near the window. The room must be a unity, and its light corresponds to the room. The light needs a space to be transformed into a softer light. After speaking about the room, let us now speak about the society of rooms. The plan is a society of rooms. The rooms relate to each other to strengthen their own unique nature. This is Kahn again who says that. A hospital is a very complex society of very different rooms connected in complex relationships. Having worked with his topic for a long time, I understand that a complex activity can develop only in a precise form. The higher the order of a system, the more diversity and freedom there is in design. As I mentioned in the beginning, the question of type and typology are of great importance for hospital design. The type is conceptual. It is a regulating principle that determines how a series of elements connected in precise relationships form a specific structure. The typology is a promise of order, and order is a promise of beauty. First, I will show you in total 3 hospitals. First is the Istanbul Children's Hospital. This project has been very special for 2 reasons. It is on a greenfield site, 1.6 million square meters west of Istanbul. And there will be a science city built around a children's hospital, which will be the first one to be built. And it was kind of difficult in this area to choose the place where the hospital should stand, because it's out in nowhere. So we chose this point here, which is at the entrance of the valley. It overlooks the entrance of the valley, and it will be near all the public transport accesses. You see, here will be the subway, the highway that arrives in this place, and then there is a special car, tramway that runs up the hill. There will be housing here, there will be a commercial center here, there will be sport fields here, there are research labs here, there will be a university here, and they intend to build a lake around this ridge here where the water comes from the mountain. So the hospital overlooks this lake and the valleys and the mountains, and it looks it's oriented towards this entrance part of the whole area. We had to build kind of a reference point for everything that is going to happen around. So we decided to build a terrace. The hill is terrace, but we built a really big terrace as an entrance plaza. So you get here with the subway and you get into a plaza where we have orange trees standing, and you see over the whole terrace, you see the whole landscape. On the other side, the terrace will be a garden. We call it Mystery Garden, which is for the recreation of the children and the parents. Because there is a special thing in Turkey. It's not if a child comes to the hospital that you leave your child in the hospital. The whole family comes along. So you have to see that the whole family finds its place and has also spaces to stay there, to be there for whatever time it needs. So this is one of these recreation spaces with fountains, with colored bushes, with play areas, with trees. Then there are the two houses standing on this terrace. One is the children's house, as we call it. These are the nursing units. And the other one is a hotel that is for the ambulance and for the parents of the ambulant patients. And then there is also some research facilities, some auditoriums, etc. inside. The whole ground floor, we call it ground floor, I think you call it first floor, but on the level of the plaza is empty. It's on pilotis. These buildings are on pilotis. And the functions are just like free forms standing inside, so you get the views through these elements, which are a lounge, of course, a cafeteria, a restaurant, prayer rooms and children play rooms and school rooms, etc. You see here the model of it. You see the plinths. In the plinths we have the treatment areas, and then this is what I called the two houses, this and this. And of course the terrace needs courtyards all over to bring the light downstairs. Oops, sorry. We developed a facade that is important for the protection of the sun. You get very hot sun in the summertime, and you get very rough winds in the wintertime. So we had terraces in front of the rooms for two reasons. On one hand, it is for this protection. On the other hand, it is also to create more surface for the family to be outside and to be able to stay. We used separate elements, maybe you see them better on the next ones. Separate diagonal elements slightly shifted between themselves to create this kind of a pattern. And they are repeated but diagonally organized. So it's always the same element, but it's diagonally shifted. So it gives you this continuous wave pattern. The same idea is used in the lower floors, but it is tilted, it is horizontal, and you need it because you need more depth for sun protection, because you don't have a balcony, but you have the circulation in the back of this area. You see that in the top, in the back of the balustrades, you get some zenithal light to get some continuity spatially between the floors, and you get some light into the depths of the deep rooms. I use, this is a different project, but I just show you, because it's more developed already, the idea of such a unit. You have always two units together that form a total, which is good for the nursing and to run the station. Then you get in on both sides. You have a big courtyard with a terrace, again for play for the children. You get the desk where you have to announce yourself, and the desk which is the supervision of all the rooms. The rooms are turned around. It's a circular pattern. And here you get the rooms for the nurses and the doctors. So there is plenty of space for the children to move and to play. They are play areas, they are play terraces. So the children can feel easy and have a good contact between the room and the station. This interior courtyard could look this way. You see these are not corridors, but they are spaces. Another part where you are near the desk. So the supervision is guaranteed. And these are the rooms of Istanbul. It's always a double room with the bathrooms on each side. And the one room is for the child, the other room is for the family. In daytime you can open it, you get like a whole apartment, and you get all this personal terrace in front of the room, and you get the view to the interior courtyard and to the life inside, so the child will not feel isolated. This is the view to the terrace. And the view from the room to the inside, to the interior courtyard and the play areas. I think this is really a children's hospital. I get to the second hospital. This is not built either, but we are going to start building at the end of the year. It was an international competition which we won. And it is the substitution of existing hospital, which is here. This is all the existing hospital. And we have to substitute it with this building. This building is meant to be a frame around which can grow on both sides, on this side and on this side, with these old buildings that we leave. And once the existing hospital is pulled down, because they move in this building, we will have a big park for the hospital. As a typology, we have been inspired by the Mezquita de Cordoba, which this plan dates, not the plan dates, but it's the phase of 961. And it shows that it is expandable, it can grow, it can change, it is flexible. And actually, many changes have been made in this mezquita in the later years. And we use that mezquita typology for the treatment areas, while for the nursing areas, we use a monastery typology, which is a concentric organization of rooms. Here they are organized around interior courtyards or kind of cloisters. They're like a cloister. This one is the Hospital Real Santiago de Compostela, and it has a church in the middle. It's from the 13th century. So you see the structural plan here. What happens on the right-hand side? I don't know. Doesn't matter. This is the plan. You see this mezquita typology with the columns. It's a 60-meter free room. You have absolutely no ducts, nothing in here. It's absolutely flexible because every vertical shaft, like technique shafts or stairs and elevators, etc., they are in these zones of circulation. And we always divide circulation very strictly between the external circulation for patients and visitors, and the internal circulation for beds and logistics and professionals. So the whole let's say the whole traffic of things don't mix up, and they are very clearly organized. You see the courtyards that we put in order to get enough light. This is the entrance part here with the entrance, the restaurants, and some infrastructure for the patients. On that side, it might go on if they pull down this building. There could be a big restaurant and other infrastructure for the hospital. And on this side, of course, we have the whole treatment areas. Here you see the same thing in color. When the patient comes in here, he finds always a desk in these points and a waiting area near the interior courtyard. So light is always guiding him through the whole hospital, and he can find his way very easily. The other typology on top. A facade which demonstrates that in the lower part you have the circulation areas which are of a bigger scale, and in the upper floors you have the patient rooms that give a smaller scale to the facade and with the sun screens. But even so, we are searching the unity to unite the two things together into one whole thing. See it here, this is the model that is in the exhibition. The entrance part, and the terraces here, the roofs, will be big garden terraces which we are designing in the moment. They will have access on both sides. They will have niches where you can sit, and they will have plants and flowers and shrubs and trees. This terrace is more for the patients, and this one is more for the professionals. And on the first floor on the terrace we have the obstetrics, so those have their own garden for their use. This is a very old, that was a drawing of the competition, but it shows a bit the atmosphere in this main circulation for the patients. You always have the park on your right-hand side, lots of light, and you find the places where you have to address yourself for the different treatments you need. And this is the plan of the nursing units. You see the rooms organized on all four sides. They have a beautiful view to the Jura, which is the mountain that goes north-south. And you have these two different views. One is to the outside, one is to the inside with the courtyards that will have vertical gardens, and then the nursing units that are placed in a way to be near to everything. So it's a very efficient plan. The bedroom went. That was the model of a bedroom. But I can explain to you the idea about it. Usually in bedrooms in the hospitals, you always, if you have two beds, you have one bed near the window and the other bed is behind it. So the second bed is a second-class bed, even if they're both in the same class. And the second bed looks only at the first bed and the feet of the first patient. And if you have to close the curtain because somebody wants a bit more of privacy, you have nothing. You're like in a cubicle, in a closed box. We always put the beds on a right angle or opposite, depends on the situation we have, in order to both have a view to the window, which is unobstructed. Both have their private room, and together they have a common room that serves like for the table, for a chair to sit near the window. So let's see what comes next. Yeah, this is the facade we are developing now. It's a facade, I said it before, the light needs steps to be transformed, and to bring the light, if you have big windows, you have to transform the light into a softer light, because you don't want the glare, you don't want the heat from the sun. So we are developing an element that is in front, and we are thinking at the moment of a very light concrete element, very thin, maybe with fiberglass, or we are still working on this. And this will be arranged as with horizontals. One is on the height of the table, and one is above the height of the eyes. So you can see when you stand, when you sit, and when you lie, you have the full view to the outside. Here is these first trials for these elements that are repetitive around. And since this building is not yet built, I show you just a few pictures of built hospitals we have done in order to show you what I mean when I say a corridor must be full of light. It must guide you and give you orientation through the hospital. It needs space. Here you have a corridor in front of doctor's room in the Basel Hospital. The same corridor, one floor up in the operation rooms. You never get in dark rooms in our hospitals, dark corridors. That just doesn't exist. You're always in the light. You always have a certain view. And this is the same corridor in the obstetrics, where the husband and the wife are maybe waiting to be prepared for the delivery. So you have chairs for relaxation, you have coffee tables and so on, and you can stay in a good atmosphere. Little waiting areas near elevators. These are the desks where you have to announce yourself, also with zenith light if you don't have a side light. And this is the facade, which is treated in a way, first of all, the structure gives it depth, but on the other hand, the glass is treated in a way that you see it in the right-hand side. At night, you don't see inside. You don't see what happens inside, while in daytime, you see outside. And another way of also dealing with these circulation areas is to introduce a strong rhythm. This is a hospital in Zurich, where we give a double rhythm, one rhythm with the big structure, which is this one, which is repetitive because it's the entrance of the hospital, it leads you into the hospital. The other one is to use the lighting of the corridor in a vertical way, so it gives a strong rhythm to this entrance. You see the same corridor from inside with the reflections in the window, and an interior corridor. And here now I show you just a few rooms. This is in the hospital in Basel, in the obstetrics. This is an existing building. And the axis or the grid of the existing building is too small for a room for 2 beds and for 2 babies. So we used 3 to make kind of a suite that is flexible, with the bathroom here, with a living lounge here, with an eating room here, and with 2 beds and the baby beds and the washing area for the baby. This is this middle part, and it's very flexible because you can close one door, then you have a one bedroom on the one side and the suite on the other side, or you can do with it a bit how the need is happening. This is a simple room. This is again a one bedroom with a little terrace in the back. And this is the room in Zolliker Berg. You can see the position of the beds. Each one has its window. There is an alcove. You see it on the plan. There is, the room is a rectangle with the bathroom and diagonally the little veranda, which gives it the tension over the corner. And then you have one bed that has this window and one bed that has this window. You have an alcove for the eating table and a little terrace. See here the two windows. This is the last building I'm going to show you. It is the Institute for Pathology and Forensic Medicine in St. Gallen. It's a laboratory building. This building illustrates our belief in the principle of unity. The theme is similarity versus variety, unity versus contrast, rhythm and light. I should like to call to mind Igor Stravinsky and his lectures in Harvard in '39, titled Poetics of Music in the Form of 6 Lessons. I quote from his second lecture, The Phenomenon of Music. Music that is based on ontological time is generally dominated by the principle of similarity. The music that adheres to psychological time likes to proceed by contrast. To these two principles, which dominate the creative process, correspond the fundamental concepts of variety and unity. All the arts have recourse to this principle. Contrast produces an immediate effect. Similarity satisfies us only in the long run. Contrast is an element of variety, but it divides our attention. Similarity is born of a striving for unity. The need to seek variety is perfectly legitimate, but we should not forget that the one precedes the many. The site, this is the site of the Hospital of St. Gallen, the whole site here. Our situation is this one, which is at the border of the hospital area. Here it's not the whole thing is on it, I don't know. And of this other part of the town. We use both geometries. You will see why, because we wanted this shifting of the geometry to give light to the floor below the ground floor. You see the plans, you see here the plan below with the wall around. Then you see the ground floor plan and you see the center, which is the whole structure, which contains all the technical and circulation facilities. So everything, all the technique and the circulation is in here. You get, outside of the building, you get these big 12 columns, and you have a span of 10 meters to be able to organize your labs and your offices and everything in a free way. You see it here, the freedom you have. Upstairs, then you have the columns which are fit near the windows, near the facades. I could go back to to the house in the Aegean Sea, which inspires me to have this little vision of the architectural order that has its middle as a slit in the middle, the floors that are above that are revolved to the sky, and the ones that are oriented where to the ground. Here you have this ground floor with the big columns, the courtyard, because we have autopsy rooms in here that shouldn't have the view inside. The structure above, which is a fit structure, which has the sun blades, which I'm going to explain after, and the whole section. The building, as it presents, I said similarity and variety. This facade is made in a way that you have, inside you have a glass facade, a simple glass facade, and then you must imagine that you put a box of metal around, of aluminium, around the whole building. You put it in a box, and you take a knife, and you make a slit from top to bottom in a slightly diagonal way, and you fold out the two elements. And this is, you repeat all around the building. And it gets this facade, which is highly effective, because the parts are not the same. The top parts are bigger than the bottom parts, then the middle part, and then again the bottom part. And we made a lot of studies in the studio, and then later our technicians were calculating it. And then we put it to the laboratories in Rosenheim at the EMPA to have it tested. And it has proved as an extremely efficient, energetically efficient facade. And we got the first eco-label in Switzerland for a laboratory. So it's not only, I think, quite nice, but it works also. You see what the light is doing with it. It's always different every day, even the color changes. This is the entrance level with the big columns and the entrance. The courtyard that brings light to the autopsy rooms. And you see from the inside, this is late in the evening, because otherwise the sun doesn't get in, but it must be in summer, maybe around 8 o'clock. But you can see outside. You see that you have a good view to the outside, and that these fins, they are reflecting light to the depths of the room, but you have no glare and no heat. Entrance part. And the lounge. I didn't show this, but you have in this central part, you have on each floor, you have a lounge for the doctors, because we thought they need a place to meet and to discuss and to drink a coffee, and it was important for them to have one place to gather. And this has a zenithal light that goes through the whole building. Light has the capacity to transform a static into a dynamic structure. The results are never fully calculable. If you allow light to enter and play with your buildings, there is always an unpredictable part, the non-measurable side of your project. This is the gift of nature to the architect. I have shown you some of our recent work. You will have noted that the projects always raise the same questions. These are the questions asked by every architect. If the answer you find in a particular context is so simple that you cannot go any further, you have reached the synthesis you were looking for. Your intuition tells you when you have reached this point. The design process requires first an understanding of the problem, not in a quantitative way, but in its essence. Then you have to find the specific question, and only then can you develop a concept. I mean concept, not form. Concept is abstract and can take many different forms. The form is the result of the process and not the beginning of it. The same can be said of beauty. I have enjoyed explaining you some of our convictions and to show you how we transform them into buildings. Architecture is much more a way of life than a profession. Going back to Paul Valéry, Phèdre says that you are born many and you die one. This counts for us, but just as well for the projects. We have an immense privilege to discover day by day a small part of the mystery of architecture. And I tell you, this mystery keeps going on. I thank you very much for your attention.